We're going to walk through an exercise that some of you struggled with in the in-class work. This is exercise 1117, and it was calculating a payroll register given the information in your textbook. That's been laid out in the table that we have here. So what you have is you have some employees that are paid a gross salary. Those employees, Kathleen and Anthony, just have their gross amounts entered in the gross pay. Nicole and Zoe and Gracie are paid hourly, and the rate of pay is $10 per hour, and they are paid 1.5 times that for anything over 40 hours a week, and the overtime hours are given for us. The first thing that we'll do is calculate what that pay is. So we'll take the 80 times 10 and the 8 hours of overtime times 10 times 1.5 for 1.5 times the rate of pay. And we can just copy that formula down once we have it. Now we have our information, we can go ahead and sum our gross pay. This gross pay is what we will be using to calculate our withholdings. The cumulative pay is given to us so that we can test the wage cap limits on FUTA, SUTA, and FICA Social Security. So let's take a look at FUTA and SUTA first. We are told that FUTA and SUTA have a wage cap of $7,000. So if anyone has exceeded $7,000 in cumulative pay, they would have 0 FUTA or SUTA withholding. If we look at Kathleen, she has exceeded the $7,000 in pay, so the FUTA and SUTA for her will be 0. The next employee, Anthony, has $6,800 of cumulative pay. He's under the cap, but only by $200. $7,000 minus $6,800 equals $200. So now we take the smaller of the amount that he is under the cumulative pay, or the gross wages. So in this case, that amount would be the $200, the smaller of those two. So we'll take $7,000, the cap, minus the $6,800, and we're going to multiply that by 0.008 for 0.8%, and we get 1.6. The FICA rate for SUTA, or the SUTA rate, is 5.4%, so we'll do the same thing there. We'll take the 7,000 minus the 6,800 times 0.054, and we get 1080. Nicole, wages of 15,000 cumulative, so she is in excess of the FUTA cap limit, so we will put in zeros for her. Zoe has current wages of $6,500, and if we look at her regular and overtime for this pay period, she has $860 in wages. So 7,000 minus 6,500, she's $500 away from the cap, and her current gross pay is $860. We're going to limit the FUTA to the smaller of those two, which would be the $500. So we'll take the 7,000 minus the 6,500 times 0.008, and then again we'll do it with the 5.4%. Oh, that didn't work out. Let's see, we forgot this here. Very important where you put your parentheses in Excel. And we don't need this one. That's called the order of operations, so it knows it needs to subtract the two numbers before multiplying. And Gracie has cumulative pay of $5,000, and her gross pay is $740. So if we look at 7,000 minus 5,000 is 2,000. Gross pay is $740. So in this case, she's still under the limitation. So we'll take the gross pay number of $740. So we'll take $740 times 0.008 and 740 times 0.054. Now you can make your numbers, and we can go ahead and do this for our whole table. Just go ahead and make our numbers be comma. Now to add these up, you'll have to do, the FUTA is the top row, so we'll do FUTA plus FUTA plus FUTA and equals SUTA plus SUTA. Let's just look back here in the column that I skipped over. That was your federal income tax and state income tax withholding amounts, and those amounts were given to you in the problem. So they already figured out how much federal and state income tax would be withheld from the employees' paychecks. On the FICA Social Security and FICA Medicare, those are both operate under the same FICA rule, but Social Security has a wage cap of $110,100 in this problem, and Medicare has no wage cap. So FICA always has a wage cap, Social Security, that is inflation adjusted every year. Medicare does not have a wage cap. In this case, again, we have to look at what is the cumulative pay and what is the cap. So we look at Kathleen, and she is close to what our wage cap is. Our wage cap is $110,100. So if we take $110,100 minus $108,300, we get $1,800. We're going to tax the smaller of that $1,800, or the gross pay of $7,000. So in this case, she's going to reach the cap, and we're only going to tax the $1,800. So we're going to do our calculation as $110,100 minus the cumulative pay times 0.062. And that gets us $111.60. The employer's match is always going to be the same, so I can just say equals that number. Now we look at the rest of the employees, Anthony, Nicole, Zoe, and Gracie, and none of their cumulative pay is near the wage cap limit. So you can do the calculation to see how far away they are from the wage cap, but really you can just eyeball it and know that the gross pay is going to be the smaller number, so you'll take the gross pay times the 6.2%. So let's go ahead and do that for these employees. Now on Nicole and Zoe, notice that we have the regular pay and the overtime pay, so we need to add those two numbers together before we multiply. Now we have our FICA Social Security computed, and the column to the left, the FUTA and SUTA, we did our adding with adding every other row. So we can go ahead and just copy that over because it will work the same. So 298.84. Our Medicare is going to be the same thing. We'll take there's no wage cap, so it's just the gross wages times 0.0145, which is our Medicare rate. And then we'll copy that number, and you can go ahead and finish those up. Again, we can just put those together and copy them over. Not sure what we've got going on down here, so I'm just going to get rid of that. Okay, now we come to the employee and employer benefits. So we're told in this problem that the employees are required to contribute 5% of their pay to their benefit package. The employer matches that by doubling it. So let's look at Kathleen. We're going to take her gross pay of $7,000 times 0.05. And that gets us $300. The employer matches that with a double, so we'll take that times 2. Anthony will be the same thing, so we can just copy that down. And now when we get to Nicole and Zoe, we need to remember that we need to add the 2 together again. And that we can copy down. This one, we need to copy from one that doesn't have any overtime. Well, you could copy either way. Yeah, we can copy this down because there's a 0 in there. So 37 and 74. All right, because of the way that we did our formula, we can just copy this over and we should get our totals for that as well. How do we come up with the employee net pay? So which of these are withheld from the employee's paycheck? Well, first we have to start out with the gross pay. We know that, right? So we take the $7,000 in the case of Kathleen. The federal income tax withheld and the state income tax withheld is withheld from her paycheck. It's her responsibility. We do not withhold the FUTA or SUTA. She doesn't have any, but we wouldn't withhold them. They are the responsibility of the employer and not the employee. So we'll skip over that and we'll go to the FICA Social Security. We'll withhold the FICA Medicare, and then we'll withhold her employee benefit contribution. And we should come up with a net pay of $4,136.90. We should be able to copy this to this row, and now here we're going to have to do it a little bit different again because we've got the 2, so we've got to add our 2 pays together, regular and overtime. And now we can subtract federal income tax minus state income tax minus FICA, Social Security, minus Medicare, minus the benefits. And I should be able to copy that one to this employee, Zoe, and to Gracie. And now we can sum that. And we get $6,306.87 as our net pay. So I'm going to rename this the register, and I'm going to add a new sheet. And I'm going to call that the journal. Notice I just double click on that to type it in. So this will be our date column. This will be our description column. Make that a little bit longer. And if we had a posting reference, then we'll have a debit and a credit column. Now what we're going to do is we're going to do the journal entries that result from this payroll. Journal entry, I think it's called B. And our journal entry dates are August 31st. The first journal entry that you're asked to prepare is the journal entry that records the payroll for the period. So how do we record that payroll? The first thing that we know that we have our wages, our salaries. What's the gross pay, right? That's going to be our expense. So we look back at our register and we can see a gross pay of $10,020. Take that over to our journal as salaries or wages expense, whichever one you prefer. I'm going to use wages expense. And our debit will be that 10,020 number. Now we just bring in all of those withholdings that are the employees. So we got FICA, Social Security, FICA, Medicare, federal income tax payable, and state income tax payable. I guess income taxes probably. All right, so those are the ones that I was just coming up with off the top of my head. Let's look at our register again. So we got the FICA, we got the Medicare. Let's look at the net pay. What all did we deduct? We deducted the federal and state income tax. Okay, we got those. We deducted the Social Security, the Medicare. Now we have to do this employee benefits. This is something new that we haven't done before, so what are we going to do with that? And it's just called employee benefits payable. So let's go ahead and pick up all of our numbers. So the FICA, Social Security, payable for the employee. Go back to our register. In our totals, this is the employee number, and we pick that up. Okay, what's our Medicare number? We go back to the register, we find our Medicare number, and we pick that up. Now we get our federal income tax number, our total, $2,380, and we get our state income tax number, $388, and our benefit plan. So now we have to make sure we pick up the right one, so we're picking up the one for the employees, and there it is for 501. Okay, what do I need to do to balance out these transactions? I need another credit, correct? Just getting rid of my $sign there. I can see, remember the trick that I said if you highlight a group of numbers, it will come up with a sum for you? So you can see down here that I've got $3,713.13 in credits. I have $10,020 in a debit. So what am I missing? I'm missing the employee's net pay, right? I'm missing this $6306.87. So we're going to put that into wages payable. And we'll pick up that total number, $6306.87. And let's see if we're now in balance. So I look at those. Sum is now $10,020, so we're all good. And for this description, we'll put to record payroll for the period. The next entry asks you to record now when you actually pay the payroll. So again, same date, August 31st. And now we're just going to come in and we're going to say wages payable. And that will be that $6306.87. We're going to now debit that because we're decreasing it. We're eliminating the liability, and we're doing so by spending cash. So we're decreasing cash, so we credit that for the $6306.87. And here we're going to just say to record payment of payroll. Item D asks you to now come up with what are the employer's expenses for the payroll. Again, our date is August 31st. So now we have what are all of those taxes that the employer is responsible for, and what do we record those to? They go to an expense, right? And it's called payroll tax expense. So that will be the total of the payroll tax items that the employer is responsible for. Looking back at our register, what is the employer responsible for? Is the employer responsible for federal income tax or state income tax? No, those are the responsibility of the employee. They pay their own income taxes. FUTA and SUTA, the unemployment taxes, are paid by the employer, so the employer will pay these. So let's go ahead and add those to our journal. So we've got federal unemployment taxes payable, and that number we'll pick up over here from our register will be the FUTA is the top one, so we'll grab the 1152. We've got state unemployment taxes payable. And we'll go ahead and get that number from the register. And it is 7776. Oops, I was putting those all in as debits and they should be credits, right? There we go. Let's just move those on over. And we'll delete them here. Whoops. Try that again, excuse me. Should have just copied and pasted. See how when I have it linked to the register, if you delete or change anything, then it automatically changes the number. Now, what else do we have if we look at our register? We've got the Social Security for the employer. We've got the Medicare for the employer. So here we're going to have those FICAs again. We're going to have FICA SS payable. And that number is this 298.84. We're going to have FICA Medicare payable. And that number will be the 145.29. We also have this employee benefit, right? We're going to treat that a little bit differently. We're going to put that in its own expense category and credit that payable separately. So let's finish up our payroll taxes first and we'll come back to that one. So these are the taxes that the employer is responsible for. Now the payroll tax expense will be the sum of those four. So let's just do our trick here, getting that sum, 533.41, or we can just do the sum command here. And if this gets in your way, you can just kind of move it out of the way, except it didn't work very well. I didn't grab it right. Gotta make sure you get the little icon there. And there we go. So 533.41. And now we'll go back and we're going to pick up the rest of it. We're going to debit employee benefits expense. It's not a payroll tax, it's a benefit, so it is treated differently. And then we'll go in and get the employer's responsibility for that. That's the one that is the expense of the employer. It's the one the employer is responsible for. The rest of it was withheld from the employee's paycheck. And then we'll do the employee benefits payable for that same amount. And our debits and credits should be in line. We've got 1535.41 and 1535.41. This one we're going to say to record costs of employee benefits. Finally, we are going to pay all of our liabilities. And it doesn't normally happen this way, but we're going to allow you just to do one entry to pay them all. So what liabilities do we have to pay? Well, let's take a look over here again. We've got the federal and state income taxes that need to be paid. So we can start with those. Federal income taxes payable. It doesn't really matter what order you do these in, just as long as you get them all right. And we can either go back to our worksheet or we can just come up here and find where we entered it before, and there it is. And we have our state income taxes payable. And we would normally just go to our general ledger and find this information when we were ready to pay it, because we would have posted all of our transactions to date. What else do we have to pay? Let's look over here. We've got to pay our FICAs, right? So now we'll do our FICA Social Security payable. We've got two portions to that, the employee and the employer. We can add them together and submit them both at the same time. So we'll add this one plus they should be the same number, so we could have almost just doubled that. And then we've got our FICA Medicare payable equals this plus this. Okay, let's go back to our register. We've got our FUTA and SUTAs. We didn't do those yet, so we need to take care of those. Federal unemployment. And we'll grab that number. State unemployment. What other liabilities have we presented? The only one that appears that we haven't done yet is the employee benefits payable. So if we look at our register, that looks about right. So we go back to our journal and we're going to pay the employee benefits as well. And we can add those two numbers together also. So it'll be the 1,002 plus the 501. And there are your payments of your liabilities. Now we're going to pay those, so we're going to credit cash, right? We're going to credit cash for the sum of those items. $5,248.54. Here we're going to put to record payment of FICA, income taxes, SUTA, FUTA, and benefit plans. And that's it. Save that, and you're ready to submit it, and I hope this helped you understand that problem a little bit better. Thanks. Have a great snow day today.